Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock Central, and that is time for another weekly episode of Nomberg Law Live, as we've done for almost coming on 5 years now. We have interesting conversations with people in their areas of expertise. And one of the beauties of social media that I have found, and there are lots of great things about social media, is that you reconnect or get to reconnect with people you hadn't seen in a long, long time. And my guest today is one of those guys, William Marshall from Eufaula. Will and I went to middle school and some high school together, but hadn't seen each other in a long time. But we've reconnected, and I'm so pleased to have Will as my guest today. Good morning, Will, and I really appreciate you making some time today.
Good morning, Bernard. It's exciting, right? It's really excited to talk to you and to reminisce. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time, but it's funny how I'm sure in our conversation we're about to have, we'll bring up some people or some things, and it'll take us right back to that time period, and hopefully put a smile on our face, and just it's fun to relive some memories from back during childhood. We'll tell folks a little bit about the current version of Will Marshall, and then we'll back up and just tell the great story, the rest of the story.
Oh yeah, great. I'm living here in Eufaula. I'm a retired Army guy, and a few years ago I started a kind of a show called Marshall in the Middle: Heroes I Know. I had a friend of mine that got sick, and his memory was going. And I happened to have some capabilities at the time to audio record and video record. And I took an opportunity to give him a call and try to get him to talk about those old stories and old memories. And that became what is now Marshall in the Middle: Heroes I Know. It came out of a realization that my generation was getting older, and some of those stories. And we didn't grow up in social media, Bernard. We didn't have a video and a picture of everything. Our pictures are treasured, from back in those days. And so I called Rob Maggot, and talked to him, and he had a brain tumor. He has a brain tumor, and it causes him to not remember what happened 10 minutes ago. But boy, we can sure tell a story about jumping out of an airplane. And he was, he's from California, and he's a wonderful guy. He became many days my example in the Army of what to do and sometimes what not to do. He was always like a half a step ahead of me. He was a jump master instructor before I became a jump master instructor. He was a first sergeant for the unit that I took, from him, and I followed him around a lot. He was also my barber and my mentor and my room dog. And Rob Maggot. It's interesting as I talk about that. This gentleman is African American. He's from California, and he came in the Army with a different name. At some point, he decided that he wanted to make his own name, and he changed his last name to Maggot.
Mhm.
And I tell you, him and Mom are doing great out in El Paso. He's a retired first sergeant, and he's got a little compound out there. But that's where it all started. That's what's going on currently, is trying to get these stories. I feel like there's so many heroes around us in everyday life. Between the milkman and the lady that works behind the counter at the deli, to the convenience store clerk, to the guy that's holding the stop go sign on the side of the road, to a hero that was in combat. We all have our own unique stories, and I'm trying to capture some of those while they're still vital enough to tell them. I've got, I think, 80 something on tape now that we've already released, and we've got a little coin and a box, and putting it all on a thumb drive, so that hopefully their heirs will fight over them one day and be proud memories. Because look, especially soldiers, they don't talk about what happened, because there's nobody that understands. There's nobody that has been there. There's nobody that has felt the bullets flying over their head, or understood the fear of a bomb blowing up at any point when they ride down the road. There's just something there that I feel like that I'm excited about getting some of those stories told.
Well, I think that is just so admirable. I love the fact that you're capturing oral histories, I do that on some other shows for Northview football and Vanderbilt football, and I love having those conversations because when you learn of someone's journey, you're taking the time, you're sharing your time with them, and I think that is the very best way you can honor somebody. And you mean enough to me to for me to inquire about you, and I think it's beautiful. And I applaud that. I hope you continue to do that. And as you said, there are heroes amongst us. Some want to be recognized and they peacock and look at me and look at me. And then there are others that just, they're just average Joes and Janes and they just do what they do. But for you to pick up on that, I think it's just lovely. It's beautiful. And talk to us a little bit about the title, Marshall in the Middle, Heroes I Know. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I always saw myself as being a middle guy. I always wanted to drive towards the middle. I saw many of my friends that when I looked at what in the army we call them aiming stakes, your left limit and your right limit, right? In other political realms, you might think of it in other ways. But I always wanted to find myself in the center. I always wanted to find myself. That's where I thought the Holy Spirit was in the center. I see people out on the left or out on the right, and they're making big waves, and I see what that limit is. And so I've always driven myself or tried to find where the middle was. I just thought that was where peace was, right? That's where the sea is calmest. And so I've always driven there mentally or tried to. And the second thing is, again, when I thought about Rob Maggott, one of the second guys that I called and talked to was one of the most famous command sergeant majors that I know, Command Sergeant Major Adams, Wilbur V. Adams. He was a famous airborne air defense command sergeant major, a big guy. We called him the Bear, and he would just give you this. He would just give you this army hug that just enveloped you, and he always knew more about you than you knew about yourself and your own family. He somehow had that gift. You've been around people that have that gift. He and I were on an operation together where we were going to go deploy the division to Haiti. Command Sergeant Major Adams and I were on aircraft number 3 of a 40 ship mission to go into Haiti. It was in '95, and we were going to war, and we went through that procedure together. We talked about that event and turn it around. It's kind of weird to think that we have a plane full of warriors that are deploying to war. They're going to go. We have bullets, we have guns, we have bombs, we have rockets, we have everything that you need to kill someone. And that was the plan. If anybody got in our way, we had rules of engagement and what to do. We flew through a thunderstorm, directly through a thunderstorm in a C-130. Was the most harrowing time of my life. I thought we were going to die on the airplane. Lightning striking around us. To get through that, because the timeline required us to go. It was just off the shore of Daytona Beach, Florida. We were flying through the thunderstorm. But at some point, the lights came on and they turned us around and said, "We're going home." One of the neatest things, Bernard, I ever remember in my life was seeing two reactions. One reaction was the warrior that was not going to get to jump into combat and kill people and break things. They were upset. But the other group of people, and there was just as many, were so relieved that they didn't have to go and they didn't have to do, and that they were going home. And we were Command Sergeant Major Adams and I were offloading the troops after we got back home, and we're standing there helping them off the ramp because we were safeties. He and I weren't going to jump in. We were the experts on the airplane to make sure they got off safely. But we're helping people down, and all of a sudden here this grenade falls off of somebody's gear and comes rolling down the ramp. And it's rolling, and it's rolling. And Sergeant Major Adams and I just looked down at it, and we could see the pin in there. We could see the clip on it. We knew it was safe. But we just watched the grenade roll down, and it came to, I don't even know which one of us it came to, but we picked it up and we just handed it to the soldier, said, "Here's your grenade, buddy." And he put it back in his pouch and he kept on walking down the ramp. And I'll never forget that day. Looking back on it, it was like, ah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Sergeant Major Adams was the second one I talked to, and I've got Silver Star winners. We've got lots of Purple Hearts, and I've also got soldiers that were just soldiers, right? Josie Laposa tells me about how 6 months prior to becoming a part of my formation, and I was her first sergeant, her aunt had stabbed her and doused her with kerosene in a closet and was about to set her on fire. Right? Colonel Williams, one of my most beloved leaders ever, was Colonel T.W. Williams, a West Point graduate of 1979 from North Florida, went through the racism of all the mess. He goes to West Point, ends up being my S3, a major in the air defense in the 82nd Airborne Division, a great leader of ours. He tells of the disappointment of only being a garrison commander as a full bird colonel and not getting a military, I mean, how does a man share something like that? Disappointed? Come on. But he also shares about playing guitar with the group Alabama on stage. He also shares about losing a wife to cancer, a son to suicide, and 2 peers in the Pentagon, attacks in 9/11. So these stories, Bernard, are absolutely amazing. It is amazing.
Well, I know that, at least I assume, each of your guests, it's emotional for them to share their personal journeys. But you, on the other side of the mic, I'm sure, are going through a whole range of emotions as well while you're learning their stories.
So one of the other things we do, Bernard, is we create a memorial slideshow for them so that when their time is done,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that has taken care of, So we do the slideshow, and I do. I believe that I'm currently in heaven. I believe this is heaven. This is the heaven that the Lord promises, and so I better enjoy it while I'm here, and I do. I also believe that by sharing this with people, I'm truly reconnecting and helping their family, in a long-term way, and it's really nice to be able to help them out and do those kinds of things and put those slideshows together.
It truly is awe inspiring. I'm pumped up just learning more of these stories. I'm putting in the show notes the link to the website for your organization. Is this an organization where people can contribute to or subscribe to? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the Marshall in the Middle Heroes I Know project, the website is formerforce.com. Formerforce.com. I also have a website, marshallinthemiddle.com, and of course you can find us on YouTube at Marshall in the Middle, and on Facebook at Marshall in the Middle. The project is put together by there was 2 of us mainly. There's been others that were a part of it for a short time, but it's now me and Joe Benson. Joe Benson was one of my first privates as a first sergeant. He was one of my guys that was a total superstar, and he and I have been great buddies and teammates ever since. And so he does the shipping. He came up with the coin and the box and everything. Let me show you that real quick. So here is the box and the coin, and the thumb drive is right there. And then we have a coin. Let me get this coin out. We have a coin that's got the all the services, to include the Guardians of the Space Force. And then on the other side, of course, is the Marshall in the Middle Heroes I Know.
Wow.
And so there's no charge for any of this. It's just donations only. We accept donations, through that formerforce.com. And the idea is not about the YouTube and the website, and it's not about views. It's about getting the memory on a video of these guys and gals telling their stories. and this for their families, for their grandkids. This is what it's for. It's for their grandkids. I don't have a video of my granddad and the exploits that he did off at war, and the things that he did while he was building his life and his family. And so now that we have the ability, why not do it? Why not take the time and do something that's real, that's meaningful, that matters, instead of play my PlayStation games or something.
No, you're so perceptive with that. Recording these oral histories for current and future family members to enjoy, to reminisce, it's so important. And Will, I should have asked you way earlier in our conversation about the definition of the term or the word hero. Because that word means so many things to so many people. It could be a completely different definition for me versus what you think of. And I'm curious as to your definition of hero.
So there's not a hero. There's not a person out there that's not a hero, in my opinion. Because everybody's a hero to somebody, right? My daughter is a hero to me, and my dad is a hero to me. So if we just look at it at that definition, you don't have to be some Korean War vet or Vietnam, whatever. You don't have to have a medal that says you did that. Look, I'll tell you, just one of the things that was really wild for me to look back on, my own soldiers, right? My soldiers look at me and they say, "Well, First Sergeant, I'm not a hero. I'm not." No, you don't understand. You are my hero, because when that bugle called at 6 o'clock, you were standing in formation. I didn't have to go looking for you. You were there. That's hero. That's heroic in that day that you decided to be a part of the team and be there. And because of that, we didn't know what was going to come up that day, but we were willing to do whatever it was. I spent a significant amount of time, Bernard, on the cutting edge of air defense in Korea, on the peninsula, and a lot of things that you don't hear about. We have to be ready over there at a moment's notice for craziness to happen at any time. And I spent 3 different tours. One of the things about an air defender is we deployed a lot looking out, in the skies, because you never know. And while everybody else is sleeping, the air defense is always looking out, right? And I'm telling you, we had some good teams, buddy. Good.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about and think about the Army and say, "Oh, the Army's blah blah blah." Let me tell you something. I will put the Army up against anybody. The people, it's the people, it's the people, it's the people, and it's about the leadership schools and the mantras and the understanding that, when you hit the ground and it hurts, the first thing out of your mouth better be rub some dirt on it, get up, let's go. It can't be lay down and play dead at any level, and at every level, mentally, physically, emotionally. The Army and our armed forces does an amazing job of building people and teams, and I'm glad I was a part of it. That's for sure.
It certainly sounds like your experience was that way. Will, with more than 20 years in the military, your travels must have taken you all over the world. Do you have is there a ballpark figure number of countries? Where was the most exotic areas that you found just fascinating for whatever reasons?
Yeah. Fort Polk, Louisiana. Fort Polk, Louisiana. That's it right there. Yeah. They have muffalettas down there. If you fall in a muffaletta hole, you better watch out. Right. So I went to Kosovo, Albania, Panama, Honduras, Korea, Japan, Canada, Germany. I spent many years at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, jumping out of airplanes. I taught jump master school for several years. I wrote the book on jumping out of airplanes. I actually wrote edition 5 of the ASOP, or led the team that wrote that book. I won lots of Pretty Boy awards. I was the NCO of the year for the 82nd Airborne Division in 1992. I was the Jump Master of the Year for the 82nd Airborne Division in 1999. Nobody else has ever done anything like that. I just enjoyed the Army. I was good at it. I stand up tall real good, and I remember things real well, and I run fast. And so me and Forrest Gump, we did real good.
Yeah. Oh, very, very good. Guys, I'm talking with Will Marshall, a childhood friend of mine. We're talking mainly about this awesome program that he started a while back where he interviews heroes he knows. Most of the interviewees are military related or have experience in the military. And I've put a link how to get in touch with Will and the organization. Do you find do people come to you wanting to be interviewed? Do you have to go search for people? How does that work for you?
So it's neat that you asked that. Thanks for asking that, Bernard. It's recently changed, right? So I knew it was going to change. Okay, there was the plan to change. Okay, so I want to get every story I can get. I just love it. Like you, I love talking to people and listening to that story. It's brilliant kind of thing. It's a brilliant thing to be able to allow someone else to unlock their mind and talk. It is brilliant. And so if you go to formerforce.com and there's a little thing where you can sign up. There's no charge, don't cost you nothing. We'll send you a T-shirt, and then we'll schedule the interview. And I've done 3-hour interviews, and then basically, if you'll give me pictures, I'll do a slideshow. I do it in my free time, and then Benson and I put together a box with a coin, and he takes and puts the serial numbers and tinks them in, and again, we're trying to make a product that the grandkids are going to be happy with because they've got granddad or grandma's, video telling about, whatever it was. I've interviewed my Sunday school teacher. I've interviewed my FedEx driver. I've interviewed, just everybody that I could think of in my life. I'm looking forward to doing my uncles, and I've already got some with my dad. And I also do another one called All American Adventures, where I go to different places in the Wiregrass. It's kind of a different channel. We visited Hank Williams' grave, and I flew my drone around, and we went to the tree in Slocum, and we went to Dobbs Barbecue, and the grave of Bill Skeeto. And basically that is me and Hunter, my buddy, driving around and talking about things, and then we do a little video, and then I've got a drone that I fly around, a little FPV drone that I fly myself. Not the I got a DJI drone, but this one's a little zippy drone with a cool camera, and I do that kind of stuff.
We love our storytelling in the South. And to me, there's no better place in the world to hear such stories, whether they are factually correct or borderline factually correct. And well, as we conclude, I just want to applaud you for what you're doing because as I said earlier, you're giving your time to others. And there's no greater gift than that. That's your way of just saying, you matter to me. You mean enough to me for us to spend some time. And I've put links to the YouTube channel, to the website, and to the Facebook group. And I encourage anyone who wants to hear these stories or potentially be a participant in Will's program that he's doing, because I don't think that there's a better way to record someone than to get them on film, to see their inflections, their emotions as they're sharing their stories. So, Will, thank you. I hope you continue doing what you're doing. It brings joy to me to watch those interviews and for us to have this conversation today. So, thank you, bud. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to do yours, right? We're going to schedule yours for the next couple of weeks and get it on tape, and I'm really excited. And David's also, I hope.
Well, he may be a harder sell than me, but we'll get there. But guys, as we do each week, it's interesting conversations with people in their areas of expertise, and Will Marshall certainly fits that bill. And I will thank you guys for your support coming back each week. And we will catch you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central for Nomberg Law Live. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Take care.